कोई कास्ट बेस्ड रेजिमेंट्स बहुत कम बची हैं, सिर्फ 2 या 3 हैं जो कि अभी भी प्योर उसी एरिया के क्षेत्र को करते हैं। और ये एक कॉलोनियल लेगेसी है। अंग्रेज ये चाहते थे कि कोई भी चीज़ पैन इंडिया ना हो, और वो ये चाहते थे कि उनको किसी न किसी वर्ग में बांटा जाए और उस वर्ग या क्षेत्र के प्रतिनिधि के रूप में जाए। उनका कोई नेशनल पर्सपेक्टिव नहीं हो, क्योंकि इससे उनके अपने कॉलोनियल एम्पायर को एक खतरा था। देखिए, मैं आपको बताता हूँ, इसी इंडियन आर्मी को फर्स्ट टाइम ये नेशनल आर्मी के रूप में कब आई? आज़ाद हिंद फौज की तरीके से, व्हेन इट बिकेम द इंडियन नेशनल आर्मी। क्या था उसका? 60,000 की फौज थी। कोई रेजिमेंट थी इनकी? थी रेजिमेंट। इनकी रेजिमेंट थी रानी झांसी रेजिमेंट, इनकी रेजिमेंट थी महात्मा गांधी रेजिमेंट,
नॉट एन अहीर और राजपूत।
हाँ,
और
ये नहीं थी।
हाँ।
और कितना सैक्रिफाइस किया इन्होंने? 60,000 में से 40,000 मारे गए। इतना एट्रिशन हुआ था। दुनिया के अंदर में किसी लड़ाई के अंदर में इतने एट्रिशन एंड कैजुअलिटीज नहीं हुई है जितनी इंडियन नेशनल आर्मी ने इम्फाल, कोहिमा के और सिंगापुर के बैटल्स के अंदर में गंवाए हैं। वो किसके लिए लड़ रहे थे? उनमें रेजिमेंटल प्राइड नहीं था क्या? उनके लिए वो नहीं था, वो भारत के लिए लड़ रहे थे। They were the soldiers of India. They called themselves as the Indian National Army.
But so do the regiments here, right?
That's
now.
right. So they will continue.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling you. They will have the nomenclature. There will be the regiment of this. I do not know how this concept has come that anybody is tinkering with the regimental pride or the regimental ethos. उसका अपना tradition होगा। अगर कोई एक बटालियन है, उसकी अपने एक वैलर है, उसकी अपनी एक हिस्ट्री है, तो वो हमेशा बरकरार रहेगा और उसमें बढ़ोतरी होती जाएगी। अब इसका हुआ ये है कि हमने ये कहा कि एक ऑल इंडिया कॉम्प्लेक्शन होगा इंडियन आर्मी का। इसको लोगों ने कहा कि रेजिमेंटल सिस्टम खत्म हो गया। रेजिमेंटल सिस्टम खत्म नहीं हुआ। इन्फेंट्री रहेगी, आर्टिलरी रहेगी, आर्मर्ड कोर रहेगा, सिग्नल्स रहेंगे। इन्फेंट्री के अंदर में भी ग्रेनेडियर्स हैं, के अंदर में गार्ड्स हैं, रेजिमेंट ऑफ गार्ड्स है। रेजिमेंट ऑफ गार्ड्स में किसका जाति के लोग हैं? कितना स्प्लेंडेड वो है उनका। ग्रेनेडियर्स है, उसमें किस जाति के, धर्म के, क्षेत्र के लोग हैं? हमारे जो परमवीर चक्र जो है, जब उनको मिला तो ये ग्रेनेडियर्स ने जितने ऑनर्स एंड बैटल ऑनर्स उन्होंने लिए हैं। तो ये सिर्फ हम ये चाहते हैं कि भारत के हर नागरिक, हर यूथ, हर युवा, एवरी यूथ ऑफ दिस कंट्री हु हैज़ गॉट ए डिज़ायर एंड ए मोटिवेशन and feels a sense of commitment to defend the country, he gets an opportunity. His youth, his energy, his talent is plowed towards making this country strong and impregnably defendable.
What happens after those 4 years are over and they don't find space in the services, and they don't find space in the paramilitary? Because the reason I'm asking is कुछ लूज कमेंट्स आए हैं कि वो प्लम्बर, इलेक्ट्रिशियन बन सकते हैं, सिक्योरिटी गार्ड बन सकते हैं। तो फ्यूचर को लेके थोड़ा बहुत एप्रीहेंशन कर लीजिए या डर है लोगों में कि हाउ विल दे बी बेटर ऑफ आफ्टर द 4 years? Will they have a skill set which is market friendly, which they can get jobs?
I think this is one of the biggest misunderstanding that has been created either deliberately or by lack of full knowledge and understanding of this thing. We are talking about a young man who is 22 or 23 years old, has done 4 years of service and now is in the market. Compare him with any other 21, 22 years old man who has not become Agniveer. This person has become disciplined. He has got the capability to work in a team. He has learned skills. He has developed the confidence, and he is trainable. His mind and his vision, he has got an all India perspective. So he is much more equipped to face the society. On top of it, he has been given a qualification that will be +2. That makes him comparable with any other persons in his age group to which the others are joining. So there is no avenue that has been debarred or closed for him. इसके लिए वो सारे रास्ते खुले हैं। उसके बाद उसके पास में 11 लाख रुपए के लगभग पैसा भी है, जिससे वो कोई नया कोर्स कर सकता है, आगे की पढ़ाई कर सकता है, यूनिवर्सिटी में जाना चाहे तो यूनिवर्सिटी की पढ़ाई कर सकता है, उनमें से कोई अगर टेक्निकल स्किल्स ज्वाइन करना चाहे तो पॉलिटेक्निक्स और उसको ज्वाइन कर सकता है। आजकल एवरेज एज सेटलमेंट की अपने करियर में 24-25 साल 26 साल होती है। देखिए आज हम उस ज़माने में हमारे एज स्पैन के साथ में 1 लाइफ 2 कैरियर्स की बात करते हैं, अब तो लोग 1 लाइफ 3 कैरियर्स की बात करते हैं। कंपेयर करें, यही आदमी अगर 15 साल के बाद जाता तो 32, 33, 34 साल का होता। इस वक्त में अब उसको कोई ना ट्रेनेबल है, उसकी एज जितनी भी नहीं है कि वो घर में बैठ जाए, क्योंकि अभी उसकी शादी हुई 3-4 साल हुए हैं, अभी उसके पास कोई छोटा बच्चा है जिसको पढ़ाना भी है, कोई लड़की होगी तो वही 15-20 साल के बाद शादी के लायक होगी, उसके पास में जिम्मेदारियां ही जिम्मेदारियां हैं। पहले का ज़माना फ़र्क था। ये जो सोल्जर था वो गांव से आता था और गांव वापस चला जाता था। गांव में रहने के लिए उसके पास थोड़ी ज़मीन होती थी और पेंशन पर गुजारा हो जाता था। आज पेंशन पर उसका गुजारा नहीं हो सकता, तो उसको सेकंड कैरियर की आवश्यकता होती है। 34 साल के बाद में इसका 40 साल का जीवन अभी और बचा हुआ है। इस 40 साल के जीवन में ना उसको हम नई ट्रेनिंग दे सकते हैं, ना उसको कहीं पर अगर अब्जॉर्व करें तो वो एक नए कैरियर की नई शुरुआत, नई जोश के साथ में उसको आगे बढ़ा सकता है। तो इसलिए इसको ये रखा गया है कि अगर वो 4 साल के बाद में आते हैं तो उनकी ट्रेनिंग, उनका डिसिप्लिन, उनका बैकग्राउंड, उनका आर्मी का कैरियर उनको समाज में एक ऊंचा स्तर देता है। उसके बाद उनके पास में एजुकेशन भी है, और ये टॉप ऑफ इट है कि सरकार ने कहा कि 10% CPMF में होंगे, डिफेंस फोर्सेस के अंदर में, जो डिफेंस मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस के अंदर में कोस्ट गार्ड है, बाकी चीज़ें हैं जो कि उनके उसमें अंदर में आती हैं, डिफेंस सर्विस कोर है, और जो उसके अंदर में और काफ़ी मिनिस्ट्री का है। अब देखिए ये 10% अग्निवीर का नहीं है, ये 10% उनके यहाँ भर्ती होने वाले लोगों की हैं। तो अगर फर्ज कर लीजिए कि CPMF की भर्ती 40,000 या 50,000 की है तो उसमें 5,000 जाएंगे। या 10% अगर जो उनके 3,000 या 4,000 लोग या 5,000 लोग जो है वो उनके जो उसका 10% नहीं होगा, ये इन नहीं। अब भारत आगे बढ़ रहा है, भारत की प्रगति हो रही है। पहला आदमी अग्निवीर जब रिटायर होगा तो आज से 5 साल के बाद में होगा, उस वक्त भारत की इकोनॉमी 5 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी होगी। प्राइवेट सेक्टर एक नई गति और नई दिशा के साथ में आगे बढ़ेगा। डिफेंस इंडस्ट्रीज जिस तरह से बढ़ रही हैं, बहुत सारे ऐसे काम होंगे। डिफेंस पब्लिक सेक्टर अंडरटेकिंग्स के अंदर में जिस प्रकार से विस्तार हो रहा है, कंट्री के अंदर में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग बढ़ रहा है, उनको लोगों को ये लोग चाहिए जो डिसिप्लिन्ड हों, ट्रेनेबल हों, और जिनके साथ जिनके पास में उम्र हो। इनका सबसे बड़ा एसेट है इनकी उम्र, कि ये अभी भी यंग है। इस उम्र में कई लोग अभी भी अगर जाए पॉलिटेक्निक के अंदर में लोग भर्ती होने के लिए जाते हैं तो उनमें से कई लोग 22, 23 साल के होते हैं, 2 साल 3 साल का कोर्स करते हैं, उसके बाद वो अपने लिए एक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग जाए। कोई कंप्यूटर का कोर्स करते हैं, 2 साल का कंप्यूटर का कोर्स करें, इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी के फील्ड में इतने वो हैं, तो इनके लिए स्थान ज़्यादा होंगे। इनका भविष्य टोटली सुरक्षित है और इनको किसी प्रकार की चिंता करने की बात नहीं है, क्योंकि इनके पास में 22 साल की उम्र है, इनके पास में 4 साल देश की सेवा करने का एक सर्टिफिकेट है, इनके पास में एजुकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशन की एक वो है, और उसके अलावा इनके पास में एक ऐसी धनराशि भी है जिससे इसको इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं। और अभी इनकी इनकम्बेंसीज नहीं है, अभी इनके परिवार नहीं है। जो ट्रेनिंग के लिए चाहे तो कोई मद्रास जाना चाहता है, कोई कश्मीर जाना चाहता है, कहीं भी जा सकता है, वो मोबाइल है। जब वो 34 साल की उम्र में आप उसको भेजते हैं, उसके साथ सबसे बड़ा अन्याय है, क्योंकि ना तो वो घर बैठ सकता है, ना लोग ऐसी जगह पे जा सकते, वो अपने क्षेत्र से बाहर भी नहीं जा सकता।
आई गेट दैट अबाउट कि जब वो बाहर निकलते हैं। नाउ द थिंग इज दैट आप खुद गांव से हैं सर, यू आर अ सन ऑफ an army person, you have worn the military uniform, the police uniform, you've been awarded the Kirti Chakra, military honor for a policeman. You understand that when you go back to the village, the respect that a uniform gets. Now many in the villages are saying कि ये 4 साल के छोकरे बाहर निकल के आएंगे, they will not be given the same respect, that वर्दी will not have the same honor, the respect that it had, because it doesn't carry with it the weight of national service over decades.
मेरे ख्याल से ये भी पूरा भ्रम है। गांव के अंदर में अभी भी इनकी उतनी ही प्रतिष्ठा और इज्जत और सम्मान होगा, गांव में नहीं, गांव के बाहर भी। ये देश की एक बड़ी भारी निधि होंगी। ये इतने हज़ारों की संख्या में जो ये बच्चे होंगे, जब ये ओवर द ईयर्स समाज के भिन्न भिन्न भागों में जाएंगे, व्हेन दे विल गो एंड मैन पोजीशंस इन डिफरेंट वॉक्स ऑफ लाइफ, they will bring with them the work culture, the ethos, the values which they have imbibed in army. Army has sent them in as a totally transformed persons. So they will be the great harbingers of the change. वो परिवर्तन को एक नई दिशा देंगे। और ये जो लोगों को भ्रम है कि इनका सम्मान और इनका वो नहीं होगा, ये बिल्कुल गलत है। मेरे ख्याल से अग्निवीरों को उतना ही सम्मान होता है। आज भी कितने लोग अपनी कोशिश करते हैं, पारिवारिक कारणों से सेना को छोड़ के कभी कभी आना पड़ता है। वो कुछ लोग हमेशा से पहले कलर सर्विस कितनी थी, 1962 तक तो 7 ईयर्स थी। उसके बाद में भी समय समय पर इसने ये कहा गया है कि इसको वो किया जाए। तो 7 ईयर्स की कलर सर्विस के बाद में जो आदमी जाता था उसको क्या वो सम्मान मिलता था, इसको अधिक सम्मान मिलेगा क्योंकि इसके पास में आगे का कैरियर भी है।
Sir, agar if this scheme was so overdue, so necessary, keeping in view that wars have changed, the nature of wars have changed, and the nature of the requirement of manpower has changed for India, अगर ये इतना overdue था तो इसके against इतने protest, इतने sudden protest क्यों हुए?
देखिए ऐसा है, इसमें दो तरह के प्रोटेस्ट या अपोजिशन है मैं कहूँगा। एक तो ये है जो कंसर्न हैं, वो देशभक्त भी हैं, उन्होंने देश की सेवा भी की है और अपने जीवन का बड़ा भाग जो है देश के लिए अपनी जानों की बाजी भी लगाई है। उनको फियर ऑफ अननोन है और जब भी कोई परिवर्तन आता है, एनी टाइम दैट ए चेंज कम्स, उसके साथ में जुड़ी हुई एंग्जाइटीज एंड फेयर्स आर ऑलवेज देयर। कुछ भय होते हैं, कुछ आकांक्षाएं होती हैं, कुछ अनागतवती चिंताएं होती हैं जो आदमी को घेरती है। इतना बड़ा परिवर्तन, इतना बड़ा चेंज हो जाएगा तो कहीं ये तो नहीं सब कुछ पलट जाएगा। तो ये हम इसको समझ सकते हैं। इसके लिए आपने देखा होगा, यदि आपने 15 तारीख जून के बाद में जैसे जैसे इन लोगों को अधिक सूचना और पूरी बात का पता चल रहा है और भी बातों का समय के साथ पता लगेगा, वैसे वैसे ये लोग इसको समझ रहे हैं कि ये तो हमारी बड़ी पुरानी आवश्यकता थी, इसमें हमारे वेटरन्स भी शामिल हैं और ये एक अच्छी चीज़ है। उनके कंसर्न हैं कि इनका क्या होगा। अब उनको पता लग रहा है कि इनके लिए भी एक भविष्य निश्चित करने की योजना है। उनको ये लग रहा है कि आर्मी के अंदर में जो एक्सपीरियंस लोग रहेंगे कि नहीं, अब उनको भी पता लग रहा है कि नहीं, आर्मी तो एक्सपीरियंस लोगों की, आर्मी डिमोबिलाइज हो रही है, ये लोग तो रहेंगे ही। और इसके बाद में जो आएंगे वो अग्निवीर के स्ट्रीम से आएंगे, वो एक दूसरे स्ट्रीम से आ रहे हैं, पर यही फिर आगे इनकी 5 साल 6 साल 15 साल ये और सर्विस करेंगे। तो उनकी वो जो भय और आकांक्षाएँ हैं उनमें धीरे धीरे कमी आ रही है। एक दूसरे वर्ग है, उसका ना राष्ट्र से कोई मतलब है, ना राष्ट्र की सुरक्षा से कोई मतलब है, ना वो राष्ट्र के प्रति इतने समर्पित हैं। उनके दे आर कन्फ्लिक्ट एंटरप्रेन्योर्स। व्हाट दे वांट इज दैट दे वांट ए कन्फ्लिक्ट इन द सोसाइटी। दे वुड लाइक टू क्रिएट एनीथिंग विच इज क्लोज टू द एनार्की। नाउ दीज आर द पर्सन हु विल गो फॉर स्टोन थ्रोइंग, demonstrations, burning the trains and others, not what is the cause. But wherever there is an opportunity, they think that they can emotionalize or mislead the people or they can have this thing. जो अग्निवीर बनने वाला होगा वो ना किसी प्रलोभन में आता है, ना वो किसी से बहकाया जा सकता है, ना वो किसी के द्वारा दुष्प्रचार के लिए प्रेरित किया जा सकता है। ये जितने लोग हैं, मुझे नहीं लगता कि ये वो लोग हैं जो कि सेना के लिए और सेना में जाने के लिए बहुत इच्छुक है या जिनके पास में एक साइकिक मेंटल सेट है। वो अपने घर में बैठ के तैयारी कर रहे होंगे।
Didn't the security establishment anticipate कि ऐसे conflict entrepreneurs जो आप कह रहे हैं that they will make use of this scheme to mislead people and to cause street unrest?
Well, something was anticipated as well also, because we thought that, well, these people who have got a vested interest, they have got vested interest because some people are making money through the coaching centers. They have vested interest because they would like to discredit the government on any count. There are some vested interests who would like the youth to be provoked against the establishment and others. We had it, but then it's a democracy. We cannot take the action and we cannot do this thing. But once they take and transgress those red lines where the limits of their freedoms start undermining the country's national security or internal security or the law and order or the peace of the country, certainly the action is taken and has been taken.
So you think that, in your opinion, street protests are justified to a certain extent in a democracy? Do you agree with that?
Well, I think that the protests or the raising your voice, expressing your this thing is justified and is permitted in a democracy. But this vandalism, but this violence, it is not permitted and will not be tolerated at all.
So our security forces, I mean the state police, I mean out here, they were just not equipped to handle it. We saw for hours together coaches burning. Hours together the coaches were burning. There was no firefighting equipment in the railway stations. रेलवे पुलिस हम सिर्फ देखते हैं मार्चिंग, बट वहाँ पे कोई रेलवे पुलिस नहीं थी. 4-5 घंटे trains were burning. We've seen protests with regard to, the earlier protests also. 1 week they've been going on with regard to prophet remarks or with regard to anything. Policemen crying, sir, forces bhej dijiye, forces bhej dijiye. The impression one gets is that these reforms which you are bringing about in the forge, it's probably more needed for civilians, for the police.
Well, I think reforms are required at various fronts. There's no doubt about it. I totally agree. Reforms are required in police, but it's such a huge country of 140 करोड़ लोगों का देश है. इसके अंदर में कहीं कहीं जब कोई घटनाएं होती हैं, उसमें कहीं पर पुलिस की गलती होती है, कहीं पर सर्कमस्टेंसेस ऐसे होते हैं, कहीं पर सूचना का अभाव होता है. These are the things that it happens. They should be investigated, they should be corrected, lessons should be learned to see that they are prevented. There is no justification in case the violence takes place.
So, आप conflict entrepreneurs की बात कर रहे थे. As far, I mean, I understand that you cannot divulge much about it, but आपने coaching centers की बात की. Is there also a political element that was funding maybe, or that was pushing these young men onto the streets to pick up stones?
Well, in many cases, the FIRs have been lodged. Wherever there have been incidents of violence, people have been identified. There have been TV cameras and others. Probably it's only after the due investigation that we can say that which were the forces behind it and who did it and why did they do it. And I would not like to preempt something or presume something, but I think the investigations must be done very thoroughly.
So, because there are some politicians who are saying, and this is across the country, many politicians feel कि ये जब अग्निवीर बाहर आएंगे, they could be mercenaries for hire. It could pose a risk, law and order situation in their states also. So, is that fear valid, or would you just dismiss it?
It is totally invalid. I have been in the business of security for last 55 years. I can tell you, if there is any guarantee in the society to keep peace, stability, rule of law, it will be the citizenship and the civilian population of this country who have to become law-abiding. And you will find the best of the law-abiding citizens in this youth who will not only abide by the law, but will make others and will be the harbingers and the nucleus of the people who will have a national sentiments, who will protect the national interest and create that environment. An environment of this thing is a creation of the undisciplined minds. People have got no sense of commitment, जिनका ना राष्ट्र से प्रेम है, जिनका ना समाज के प्रति कोई उत्तरदायित्व है, ना जिनके अपने प्रति कोई इस प्रकार का उनका ध्येय या लक्ष्य है कि हम राष्ट्र के निर्माण में क्या कर सकें. ये लोग अच्छे लड़के होंगे, फिजिकली फिट होंगे, उसके बाद 4 साल की ट्रेनिंग में केवल इनके शरीर ही नहीं बढ़ते हैं, इनके मस्तिष्क के अंदर में भी एक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन आता है. उनका सोचने का तरीका फ़र्क होता है, उनका एक नेशनल पर्सपेक्टिव बनता है, एक ऑल इंडिया पर्सपेक्टिव बनता है. जब ये समाज में जाएंगे और बड़ी संख्या में ओवर द ईयर्स समाज के, सरकार के, प्राइवेट सेक्टर के विभिन्न अंगों में जब ये होंगे तो ये अपने चारों तरफ, अपने परिवारों में, अपने गांव में एक ऐसे वातावरण का वो करेंगे और एक इस प्रकार की फोर्स की तरीके से इमर्ज होंगे जो कि हमारी इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी के लिए एक बड़ा भारी एसेट होगा. और इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी जो है वो बहुत आवश्यक है हमारे राष्ट्र की एक्सटर्नल सिक्योरिटी के लिए.
बट सर, डोंट यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट और डोंट यू सी द फियर दैट ये जो इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी को ज़रा भी डिसरप्ट किया जाए, इवन इन पॉकेट्स, जैसे आपने CAA स्टर में देख लिया, उसके बाद हिजाब रिमार्क्स हो जाती हैं, मे बी नॉट द हिजाब एंड द प्रॉफिट रिमार्क्स, बट CAA स्टर एंड द एग्रीकल्चर रिफॉर्म्स की जो लॉज थे, अगर इसमें क्या होता है दैट द वर्ड गोज आउट दैट ऑन द स्ट्रीट दैट इफ यू पुश द गवर्नमेंट, इफ यू पुश द सिक्योरिटी एस्टैब्लिशमेंट टू अ सर्टेन एक्सटेंट विद स्ट्रीट प्रोटेस्ट, देयर कुड बी अ रोल बैक. So, is there any chance that because of these street protests, there could be a rollback to the Agnipath scheme?
There is no question of any rollback. There is no question. It is. Let me tell you one thing. This is not something which is a knee-jerk reaction which has come overnight. This has been being debated and discussed for decades. In 70s, we had General Krishna Rao Committee, of which General Sundarji, General Chibbar, they were the members. They talked about reorganization and reforming of the army, including the manpower policy, technology and others.
So you're talking 40 years back?
No, not only that. It is not only 40 years back. Then there was this thing of the Arun Singh Committee report in 1989. Then there was a group of ministers, this thing.
Arun Singh Committee would be 30 years then. So what you're telling me is systematically there have been...
No. Every time it was being felt, there was this thing of the Subramanian Committee report, the Kargil Committee report.
So again, that is 30 years.
Again, then there was a group of ministers report. Okay. And then all these consistently had a refrain, go for a young army.
So across
the army's demand.
Across different political parties which have been in power.
But there was a problem. While everybody realized that it was necessary, nobody had the will and the ability to take the risks. I'll tell you an example. Ministry of Defence in 2006 wrote a letter to the Ministry of Defence wrote a letter to the Ministry of Home Affairs that we are thinking of implementing this thing. Will the CPMFs be able to take some people on this thing, the reserve for that? Home Ministry gave a reply to the Defence Minister's letter that we are forming a committee under the Director General BSF to examine the matter. That committee's report has never seen by anyone. That letter of the Defence Minister was never sent back. Defence Minister never sent any reminder. It is that
So when was this?
It was in 2007. Okay. The letter was sent in 2006 and 2007 the committee was formed.
So this is bureaucracy going round and
round?
round?
No, it's not a bureaucracy. It was a political will. That is, it is such a big problem. It's such a huge mass. Who will dare getting into it and bringing about the change? It can happen only with a leader like Prime Minister Modi, who will say that if this is in the national interest, if this will make India strong and secure, then no risk is big enough, then no cost is high enough. Even if it is a political cost, I will pay it, because he visualizes what happens to the Indian army 15 years from now. Security is not only thinking about your generation, also about the future generations. You will have an army which has been recruited and selected, and they have got manned by the people who have got the highest degree of fitness, agility, training, capabilities and others. They would be manning it. And then there will be a civil society in which you will have thousands of people who are there to bring about the change. They will be the catalysts of change.
So Prime Minister Modi just yesterday has said that any kind of reforms that come, they disturb the status quo, who have benefited from status quo. Is it that this Prime Minister has the forge and the bureaucracy with him, that earlier Prime Ministers didn't have it, and that is why the MOD, the MHA, the defense, the uniformed soldier, they are not on the same page? Is it that the earlier Prime Ministers didn't have it and this Prime Minister has it?
Well, yes, this Prime Minister, firstly, he has got a clarity of vision, and he has got the ability to take decisions. He is very right in telling that all status quoists will have some doubts, will have some genuine fears. It requires a certain clarity. There is a lot of clutter and confusion, and to take it out, you need a very clear-headed leadership. When he is clear-headed, people down the line also become clear-headed. Probably the earlier regimes created a muddle because they themselves were not clear. What did they want? What transformation they want to bring about? And what is the cost, and are they prepared to pay that cost? With the Prime Minister, I think the entire army, and let me tell you one thing, late General Rawat, he is not here, he was one of the persons who was spearheading it very this way, successive army chiefs in the last few years. I think it has been going on for last 3 years or something like that, that we had been deliberating and thinking and this thing like that. I had seen large number of meetings over this thing and other. Smallest point, smallest detail has been gone into, and there is a total support, there is a total commitment, there is a total desire and also an enthusiasm about bringing about this change. That these doubts were in our minds also. We resolved those doubts. Okay. We tried to find out how we can minimize that, how we can mitigate the possible threats and the dangers.
So you've been with Mr. Modi since he took office in 2014. There's been a doctrinal shift in India's relations with Pakistan since he's become Prime Minister, since you've been the NSA. You've seen several regimes change in Pakistan. Do you think, from a security perspective, is it possible for this kind of, I will not talk to you, you have to stop terror, till then I will not talk to you? And can nations prosper with that attitude going forward?
I'll tell you one thing. We cannot have peace and war at the choice of our adversary. If we have to protect our interests, we will decide when and with whom and on what terms we will have peace. When our core interests are involved, there is no question of peace at any cost. There has got to be a peace. We want very good relations with our neighbors, Pakistan included. We would like to have good relations with them. We would like to have very normal relations with them. But certainly the tolerance threshold for terrorism is very low. We certainly would not like to make our citizens as sitting ducks for the terrorists who come and this thing. Thank God, and I think I must this thing to the God. In last 8 years, this country has not seen any terrorist this thing except Jammu and Kashmir, which has been this thing of a proxy war. So it's a different type of a proxy war. Just before that, say between 2005 to 2014, we had Bombay, we had Pune, we had Kanpur, we have got Delhi, we have got this whole range of this Bangalore, Ahmedabad, and other. What was the whole range of this thing the country was being this way? If we were not firm, if we were not very decisive, if we did not have the clarity, we will fight it. And we will not beg for peace at any terms.
So you spoke about Jammu Kashmir, so I have to say this because we saw that when Article 370 was taken back, you went there. You went to Kashmir, you spoke to the people. We saw that happening. What do you have to say to people who are victims of these lone wolf attacks which are happening? Yes, I agree that that terrorism as such from Pakistan is gone, but then these are these lone wolf attacks, soft targets which are going. How will you cope with that? How will terror end in every form in Kashmir?
Well, this is a problem of security, and we are dealing with it, and we are dealing with effectively. Firstly, you must understand one thing. Post 2019, the mood and the temper of the people of Kashmir has totally changed. People are no more in favor of Pakistan, in favor of terrorism, in favor of this thing. You can see, where is Hurriyat today? Where are those Bandh calls? Where is this Friday Hartals? They have all gone this thing like that. But some individuals, some young boys who are misled or who are this thing, they are getting into this thing. We are doing our best to persuade them. Their families are trying to persuade them. A lot of change has come about, but still there are few persons and some individual tanzeems, the militant organizations and others who are still operated and go by a mistaken notion of their beliefs or whatever is that they want to be the Fidains and they want to come. They do create problems for us. We are fighting them. So, and we are fighting them with total resolve. There is no way to deal with the terrorists. We don't deal with terrorism. We have to deal with the terrorists. And terrorists, their equipment, their weapons, their explosives, their money, and we on all fronts are trying to tackle it. And so we are very hopeful that in another few months we'll be able to get it.
The Kashmiri Hindus, especially the Pandits, they feel very let down, to some of them, that there is so much energy expended in bringing these terrorists or militants or separatists back into the mainstream, that those who have supported Mr. Modi, the BJP and this government all through, that they are being taken for granted and their security is not of paramount concern to the security establishment.
Firstly, I don't think that is the real feeling of all Kashmiri Pandits or people who have been displaced. But yes, they are a vulnerable section. They need protection. They have got to be protected. Government has taken various measures in the past. Probably much more has to be done, and that is being done. We have got to see that wherever they are and whatever protection they require, because they can be the soft targets, and no government would be able to give an individual protection to each individual in any village or far off places. So we have to find out the systems, and best thing is that we go on the offensive against the terrorists and try to see that these persons who possibly can threaten their lives or their properties and others, they are accounted for.
So, where are we vis-a-vis China? It's now 2 years since the Galwan incident, and there seems to be an uneasy peace. Do you feel that China has put on hold its expansionist policy with regard to us, with regard to Indian territory?
Well, we have got a long pending a territorial dispute with China. We have made our both intentions and this thing very clear to China, and they are aware of the fact that, well, we will not tolerate any transgression. There had been some unsavory incidents in 2020. We have been able to, through the talks, through the negotiations, through the persuasion and others, resolve some of it. Few points still remain to be resolved, and others. We will continue our efforts. At the same time, we have got to ensure that is we are vigilant and we are able to protect our borders totally.
So, internal security, external relations, these are mainly conducted behind closed doors, in hush hush manner. Some of it is visible to common people, but there is also a view that, keeping in nature with federal structure, things like what has been done, the Agniveer scheme, maybe there can be a more consultative manner in dealing with these apprehensions. Do you feel that there is a time that the time has come to change how internal security is, decisions regarding internal security are taken in this country?
Management of security is a highly layered phenomenon. There are layers and layers and layers. There has got to be some this thing where there is a complete insulation, and it has got to be protected, and people should know only on the basis of need to know. If they have got either, if they can neither contribute nor that this is they are accountable for anything, and you take them into confidence and others, probably it is not from them, but once it becomes public, our adversaries will take advantage of that. So we have got to maintain a certain amount of secrecy. As far as the consultative process is concerned, India's democracy and India's this thing is so open. If it was not such a this thing, you would not find that on every issue, if there are 100 people, there are 101 opinions, and they are freely expressed from the street to the press to the media and everywhere.
So you spoke about India's adversaries taking advantage of any kind of unrest which happens in India, but then we saw with regard to the prophet remarks and the hijab protests that people who we had presumed had become non-adversaries of ours had suddenly started making comments, had suddenly started doubting India's democracy or India's inclusive society. Do you feel that these protests have gone beyond this and have damaged us terribly?
Well, it has, in the sense India has been projected, or rather some disinformation has been spread against India, which is far from the realities and the truth. And probably there is a need for us to engage them, to talk to them and convince them. And you would have found that, well, wherever we have gone or wherever we have engaged with the concerned people, both outside and inside, we have been able to convince them and try to find out this thing, and it will subside. But it happens. When people get emotionally aroused and others, sometimes their behavior is little disproportionate to the actual event, but it is the same.
Does it put the security establishment on a back foot when these kind of street protests take place on very sensitive topics like the Agnipath scheme?
Well, I don't think that it puts this thing. The only thing is when the law is transgressed. If there are protests, if there is a point of view that people want to have this thing, they have got the right to dissent. In a democracy, that is a right that should be honored, and that should be it should be given ample space. But when it starts hurting the national interests, when it starts undermining the national security, when it starts threatening the life of a law-abiding common citizen, when it starts causing pain to him, it becomes intolerable. And this is what our law says, this is what our constitution says, and that is why the law enforcement agencies are bound by the law, they are bound by their oath to protect the people, to protect their interests, to protect their properties, and not allow the miscreants and the anti-social and the anti-national elements to make better of the society.
So as I wrap up, I just have one question on Afghanistan and the recent attack on Sikhs out there and India giving visas to them. Where is it going now? Are Hindus and Sikhs and other minorities, will they find home in India? Will there be, will we increase the number of people that we take from Afghanistan into India? What happens with CAA? Will that come into force?
Well, I think it's very clear. CAA very clearly says that in our neighborhood, in case any of these the minorities there are on the basis of their religion are persecuted, we will give them. We have given the visas to a large number of Sikhs, and I think as the flights are available, some of them will be coming back, and others will apply. Probably will look at their cases very, very sympathetically. So it was a very unfortunate incident. It should not have happened, but there are forces. You know that terror and this thing, violence, they are the things in which we have to live with in the modern times. But Government of India is doing everything, and it has assured the Sikhs there and the Hindus there. I think there are very few Hindus left there, but they have assured them that India will stand by its commitment and by its assurances.
So towards the end, do you have any message for youth who feel disillusioned and disheartened that maybe some of them were part of the protest, regret it, and would like to take the Agniveers? Is it over? Are the doors shut for them?
Well, as far as the message to the youth is concerned, ये मैसेज बड़ा क्लियर होना चाहिए कि सेना में जो लोग जाते हैं वो केवल पैसे के लिए नहीं जाते, वो एक जज्बे के साथ जाते हैं। उनमें देश प्रेम होता है, उनके अंदर में राष्ट्र की भक्ति होती है, उनके अंदर में यौवन की शक्ति होती है। वो इसको इन्वेस्ट करते हैं अपने आप को और सोचते हैं हम देश के लिए क्या कर सकें। अगर वो भावना नहीं है तो आप इस करियर के लिए नहीं बने। इसमें केवल हम उन्हीं यूथ को चाहते हैं। आपकी ट्रेनिंग कितनी है, आपकी फिजिकल फिटनेस कितनी है, यह आवश्यक है, लेकिन इससे भी ज़्यादा आवश्यक है कि आपकी मानसिकता क्या है। तो अगर कोई भी यूथ अग्निवीर बनना चाहता है, और मेरा सारे यूथ को इस देश के से यही है, मेरा मैसेज यही है, पॉजिटिव हों, बी पॉजिटिव, हैव फेथ इन द नेशन, हैव फेथ in your leadership, when you join the army and others, the leadership there, have faith in the society and have faith in yourself. That is the most important thing. स्वामी विवेकानंद कहते थे, पुराना धर्म कहता था कि नास्तिक वो है जो ईश्वर पर विश्वास नहीं करता, नया धर्म ये कहता है कि नास्तिक वो है जो स्वयं पर विश्वास नहीं करता। अगर आपको अपने ऊपर विश्वास है तो आपकी फिजिकल फिटनेस, आपकी मेंटल फिटनेस, आपकी ट्रेनिंग, आपकी और आपकी आयु को देखते हुए आपके लिए सारी दुनिया पड़ी है। यू कैन कंकर द वर्ल्ड, द होल वर्ल्ड इज फॉर यू। अगर आप डिमोरलाइज्ड हैं, अगर आपकी नेगेटिव थिंकिंग है, तो आपको सारी चीज़ें पॉजिटिव होते हुए भी भविष्य अंधकार में दिखेगा। भविष्य में आस्था रखिए, अपने में विश्वास रखिए, और आपका भविष्य बहुत उज्जवल होगा।
धन्यवाद डोवल जी, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर स्पीकिंग विद अस।